45 seconds. It is all we got. 45 seconds to run to the safe room. People who watch the news will not understand the full picture on Israel, and so I'm here to tell you the truth. Today, I'm going to talk about Israel's history, invention, and the media. After presenting what I'm going to talk about, let's talk about Israel's history. According to Stand With Us on their Israel 101 booklet that was written in 2001, from the Bible, the Israeli people had a connection to the land of Israel for over 5,000 years. And there are also archaeological proofs to that. All those years, the Jewish people strived to return to their promised land. In the 1940s, there was an attempt to eliminate the Jewish people, the Holocaust. 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazi Party and their helpers. And the world stood silent. 3 years after D-Day, Israel was rebirthed in 1948. Not even a day to celebrate, and a war broke, the War of Independence. According to the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs, on an article, Facts About Israel History, that was written in 2010, Israel has been through many wars. One of them was the Second Intifada. The Second Intifada was in 2001 and lasted for 5 years. It was random terror attacks on Jews for being Jews. Can you imagine thinking 5 times today before coming to public speaking here in Normandale Community College because it might not be worth the risk, it might be too dangerous? This was the reality. Since Israel rebirth till today, rockets have been fired on Israel constantly, during wars, in between wars, and even today. Just yesterday, as I practiced my speech, my phone was vibrating, interrupting my speech, and an alarm was in Israel. I want to tell you a personal story. A few years ago, when I lived in Israel, we went to the theater, all of the friends. It was very unusual since everything that's happening, but our parents said yes. We went to see Transformers. The movie just came out and we were all super excited to go. In a 15 minutes of a movie, we had 3 alarms. 3 times going down to the safe room, which was 3 levels down. Can you imagine the whole mall just running downstairs? 3 times in 15 minutes. That was the reality. It wasn't unusual. It was the way it was. Today, many terror attacks are happening. Since the beginning of this Jewish year, since the beginning of this September, the beginning of our class, 1,200 terror attacks. 1,200 terror attacks in 3 months. Can you imagine being scared constantly? Not living your normal life constantly? But you know what? Let's stop for a second. I told you about war and blood and tears and hatred. I want to tell you about the hope, about the good things. I want to tell you what the media will not tell you. I want to tell you about Israel's contribution to our world. And it's enormous. Many inventions that we are using today were actually invented in Israel by Israelis. The flash drive we're using, the chip in our iPhone, the antivirus on our computer, and so many more were invented in Israel. On an average day, we are using 7 Israeli technologies without even knowing. Apple, Intel, Google, Microsoft, all those companies have their development centers in Israel. According to A&E TV Network, on an article, State of Israel, that was written in 2010, many medical inventions that we're using were invented in Israel as well. The camera pill is a pill that you swallow and it takes pictures in your body instead of doing a surgery, an open body surgery. Not just that it saves millions of dollars, it saved so many lives. I don't know how many of you watched Glee, but Artie, the kid in a wheelchair, in one episode, went to dance with Tina, his girlfriend. And so he was wearing those rubber shoes, legs. Israeli invention right there, making it possible for disabled kids to walk once again. This is what the media will not tell you. Let me tell you what the media will tell you. It will show you one side of Israel. And even that side is not always true. The media around the world is biased. When something happens in Israel, Israel will most likely appear as the bad guy. So I want to tell you a story. A month ago, two Palestinian kids, they were both 13 years old, stabbed a few people when their last victim is a 13 years old boy. By the time they stabbed him, the Israeli police got there and shot them, injuring one and killing the other. Of course, it's not okay to kill someone, but they had to stop them from stabbing people. You can imagine what the titles around the media were. The Israeli police brutally executed two Palestinian boys. The Israeli police murder in cold blood two Palestinian boys. Not just that it's wrong, it's not even true. The Palestinian boy who was injured is alive and well in Israeli hospital. He was actually treated before the Israeli kid who was stabbed. Because in Israel, there is a law that says that the most severe situation will be handled first. Would you sympathize with those titles? Because I know I would, and I wouldn't get the full picture from this. The media is promoting and encouraging incitements. Words can kill. Can you imagine your neighbor coming to your house wanting to kill you because you believe in what you believe? Because you are who you are? Living here today taught me that people need to get educated. And there's so many reasons why, and there's so many ways how. But promise me that when you do get educated, it won't be biased. Promise me that you will read the facts and not emotions. So now that I talked about the media, let's recap everything I talked about. After talking about Israel's history, Israeli invention, and the media, I want you to go home and tell one person what I told you today. It will be one more person who knows the truth. Martin Luther King said in his speech in 1967, "The whole world must see that Israel must exist and is one of the great outposts of democracy in the world."